here today with the hashtag KenroCam and Leatrice Eiseman, who is the director of the Eiseman Center for Color Information and Training and the executive director of the Pantone Color Institute. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So today we're going to talk about color. Color is so important to the world of stationery. So when we're thinking about color, how can we inspire designers to think about color and tone that plays such an important role in individual pieces of stationery?
Well, I think that most designers today are thinking about color, but more from an aesthetic standpoint. Oh, these colors look good together. Oh, I never thought about using this color and that color, which is all very important because it attracts the human eye, and in the end, that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
But at the same time, there's a psychology behind color. There truly is. There have been many studies over the years about how people respond and react to color, and on a personal level, we know that even though we may not give a lot of thought to it, that we are reacting to colors on a very visceral level.
Absolutely.
Every color has a meaning.
I love that. So, quick question. When you walk around, do you see color in terms of numbers and names?
Well, I see them in terms of names because there is a romantic notion that goes along with color. I've been involved in many word association studies over the years, color word association studies, where we give people a little Pantone chip and we say, what does this say to you? Give us your first reaction.
Yeah.
And we've collected them over the years. And it's so interesting to us to see that many of them are similar. People have very similar reactions, and then some go off and veer into personal relationships that they might have with a color. But yes, when I walk around anywhere that I am, color obviously is the first thing I look at, and I'm always thinking, how was that used in the context of what level, and who is that going to attract? That's the most important thing.
I love that. And speaking of Pantone, with the Color of the Year Radiant Orchid this year, what inspired that for this year?
Well, every year we do a lot of homework to come up with the color of the year. I travel all over the world. I do a lot of talks at different trade shows, universities and such. And what we try to do is to pick up the zeitgeist, if you will, what's out there that we're seeing, not only literally at the shows, but on the street. What are people wearing in different areas? What films are going to be released? Not necessarily what's out there now, but when we're doing the Color of the Year, we have to look ahead to the next year. We also look at big television shows. Is there a color story that's surrounding that? Because millions of people watch these shows and go to the movies. And so whatever colors are used in the films, that registers with them, whether they're aware of it or not.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
fascinating.
We look at art exhibits. Who's the hot artist? Is there a big exhibit somewhere that a lot of people are going to be either going to see or possibly getting a lot of attention in the press, and people are aware of the colors that surround that? Plus the psychological meaning, again, of the color. Now, with Radiant Orchid, we had looked at the idea of, and there's no question that people are getting more creative. They're wanting to be more creative. They're extending themselves a little bit more. And purple is a color of creativity.
Yes.
It always has been.
Yes.
And so it was such a natural for us to go into the purple family. But we wanted something within that purple family that would really express the mood that we wanted to get across. And the Pantone's Radiant Orchid, just the name itself, it shines. It has a radiance, an inner glow. In addition to that, the orchid has a kind of exotic meaning that's attached to it. So you put the two together and you come up with a name that has real meaning, so it sort of implants a suggestion. And then, of course, when you look at the color, wow.
Yeah.
How can women in particular not, want that color? Now, I'm not saying that men aren't attracted. We saw fashion collections. Of course, we look at them. That's a given. Kenneth Cole used it as one of his leading colors for his menswear line. So, not every guy is going to be brave enough, but maybe a tie, maybe a pair of socks, maybe a pair of sneakers or suede loafers. We're seeing them out in the marketplace now. So we know the color's having an impact.
I love it. My 10-year-old daughter, it's her favorite color, so she was very excited to have it be the Color of the Year.
Is she creative?
She's very creative.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So in thinking also about people who might be afraid of color, what are some suggestions that you have for them for kind of breaking out and embracing it?
Well, you have to take baby steps. If you really are chromophobic, as we call those people, then you have to do it in kind of little steps so that you get accustomed to the idea of using it. Most people are chromophobic because of what others say, not because of any inner misgivings. It's because they're afraid of being criticized. And I always say to people, you know, this is an expression. Color is an expression of you.
Right.
If you look at a color and you just go, oh, wow, I love it. But, oh, would I use that? Would I do it in a pair of shoes? Would I paint a wall that color? Don't think about others and their criticism of it. Think about how it feels for you. And I trust me, if you take that baby step and you use it in small touches, maybe a pillow instead of a wall,
Yes.
maybe buying some beautiful stationery that you send off to someone else and still that expresses who you are, I think those things are important to bear in mind, and you will get braver as you move forward.
That's great advice for chromophobes.
Yes.
I love that word. So our final question for you has to do with stationery. And, you know, we're trying to remind people that stationery is real and it's fun. And so do you happen to have a stationery confession that you are willing to share with us?
Well, I have always been a stationery buff. I mean, ever since I was a kid. I just think it's marvelous to be able to sit down and express your feelings in writing, because I am a writer. And what better way to do that with pen and paper?
Exactly.
So I've always been very much into stationery. But, you know, I just received a note from a friend of mine. And, you know, today we're so accustomed to email. Hi, how are you? Thank you for the party. Whatever it was, quick email, out of sight, out of mind. But she sent me a note on the most beautiful stationery, and she knows my favorite colors. Radiant Orchid was one of them. That is so personalized. That says to me she really cared to sit down, pen that message to me instead of just a quick email, get it over with. So it's not really a confession, other than the fact that I've been crazy about stationery since I was a kid. But the fact that when someone takes the time to do that, it's so much more special. And I learned another lesson, because sometimes I do that too.
Yes.
You know, get out the stationery, take the time. How much time does it take to send a note to tell people how much you really love them and appreciate them?
Just a minute, right? It just takes a minute.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you have your speaking to get to, so we appreciate your time, and we learned a lot.
Good. Thank you for inviting me.